Please don't pull it, the Apache girl begged. The rancher did, and his blood instantly ran cold. The sun was low in the sky, painting the desert in shades of gold and red. The wind whispered softly through the dry grass, carrying the scent of sagebrush and sand. On the edge of the wide, empty land, Elias, an old rancher with weathered skin and tired eyes, walked slowly. His boots crunched against the sand as he carried his metal spade, looking for the water line he had been trying to dig for days. Elias had lived all his life on this ranch. The land was harsh, but it was home. He knew every rock, every ridge, every twisted mesquite tree. Yet today something felt different. A strange pull seemed to come from the far edge of the desert, a place where he rarely went. He stopped and squinted against the sunlight. There, half buried in the sand, was something that didn't belong. It was small at first, just a glimmer that caught his eye. But as he stepped closer, he saw that it was more than just a rock or a shard of metal. It glowed faintly, a soft blue light that seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. Elias bent down and brushed away the sand. The object was smooth, round, and warm to the touch. "Don't touch it!" a voice shouted suddenly. Elias jumped, almost dropping the artifact. He turned to see a young girl running toward him. Her dark hair whipped in the wind, and her eyes were wide with fear. She was dressed in simple clothes, patched and worn, but she carried herself with quiet strength. "I told you," she said, breathless. "Please." "Oh." "Don't pull it out," Elias frowned. "Who are you?" "Why shouldn't I pull it? My name is Nayeli," she said, her voice trembling. "That thing.
Ooh.
It's not safe. You don't understand." Elias chuckled, a dry, tired sound. "It's just a rock, girl. I've seen plenty of strange stones out here. Don't tell me you're afraid of a little dirt and metal." Nayeli's eyes darkened. "It's not just a rock. It's alive. In a way you can't imagine. You have to leave it alone." Elias hesitated for a moment, studying the glowing object. He had spent his life on logic and experience. He had never believed in magic or strange legends, but there was something in the light that made his skin tingle. It seemed to watch him, almost aware of his presence. "Alive, huh?" he muttered. "Well, I've been living on this land my whole life. If this thing wants to hurt me, it can try." Nayeli took a step forward. "No."
You don't understand. Just listen.
"Please," Elias sighed, torn between curiosity and the girl's urgency. But the need to know, to see what this strange thing was, overpowered caution. Slowly, he knelt down and grasped the object. It was surprisingly light, almost weightless in his hands. The glow grew stronger, warming his palms, and for a moment, he felt a strange calm wash over him. "See? Nothing to worry about," he said, but his voice sounded uncertain even to himself. Nayeli's hand shot out. "Don't." But it was too late. Elias lifted the artifact from the sand. Instantly, the desert changed. The wind stopped. Birds froze mid-flight, their wings stiff in the air. Even the distant tumbleweeds seemed to hover as if suspended in time. Elias felt a shiver run down his spine. His blood ran cold, and his heart pounded in his chest. Something deep and ancient seemed to stir around them. "What?"
"What's happening?" he whispered. Nayeli's eyes were wide with fear, but also awe.
"It's awake, You've woken it." The artifact pulsed in his hands, sending waves of faint light across the desert. The air shimmered, and a low, humming sound filled Elias's ears. It wasn't unpleasant, but it was powerful, almost too much for him to bear. His mind felt strangely alert. every sense sharper than before. The world looked sharper, brighter, alive. It's beautiful, he breathed, unable to look away. Yes, Naeli said softly, but beauty can be dangerous. That thing, it can see your mind. It can feel your thoughts. If you're greedy, careless, or cruel, it will know. Elias swallowed hard. Feel my thoughts? Humans are special, Naeli said. It can tell the difference between us and others. Most beings in the galaxy could never understand it. But humans.
Humans can.
Elias frowned.
What do you mean humans are special? Naeli looked at him with a mixture of sadness and hope. Because of your mind.
Your heart. Your choices. That's why it reacts to you. That's why it glows for you. Elias looked down at the artifact. The warmth was comforting now, but the earlier shiver lingered. He realized that curiosity alone had brought him here, and that perhaps curiosity was a kind of power. Something deep inside him stirred, an excitement he hadn't felt in years.
What do we do now?
He asked. Naeli hesitated. We have to learn from it. We have to be careful. It is a test. I don't know everything about it, but it chooses carefully who it allows to interact with it. If we make the wrong choice, it might withdraw forever. Or, worse, it could react in ways we can't control. Elias nodded slowly. He had spent a lifetime relying on experience, but this was unlike anything he had ever faced. Something beyond his understanding was at work here, and for the first time in decades he felt truly alive, a mix of fear, awe, and anticipation. They sat together on the warm sand, the artifact between them glowing softly. The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the desert. The moment felt eternal, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Elias spoke quietly.
You said it can see our minds, then maybe.
Maybe it will help us. Maybe it wants to teach us. Naeli shook her head slightly. Doesn't give answers freely.
It shows possibilities. It shows choices.
You have to understand it, to respect it. Otherwise what? Elias thought, but he didn't ask. The thought was frightening enough on its own. For hours, they watched. The artifact pulsed and shimmered, sometimes brighter, sometimes dimmer, as if breathing. Elias noticed patterns in the light, faint symbols that seemed familiar but impossible to name. He felt as though the artifact was speaking to him in a language beyond words. Night fell, and the desert changed again. Stars twinkled overhead more brightly than usual, reflecting in the sand. The artifact's glow cast a soft blue light illuminating Elias and Naeli. Despite the chill of the night air, Elias felt warmth in his chest, a sense of connection to something much larger than himself. Naeli whispered, "Tomorrow we will begin to understand it. Tonight, just observe. Feel it. Listen. Don't make any sudden moves." Elias nodded. He lay back on the sand, staring up at the stars, and wondered what mysteries the artifact held. He realized that curiosity had led him here, but respect and patience would determine whether he could survive its lessons. For the first time in his long life, Elias felt small, yet important. The desert was no longer just land and rocks. It was alive, and humans had been noticed. The artifact had chosen to reveal itself, and with it, a chance for something extraordinary. As the desert night deepened, the glowing artifact pulsed gently, like a heartbeat. Elias and Naeli stayed by its side, waiting for the dawn and the next part of the journey. The sun rose slowly over the desert, casting a soft orange light across the sand. The air was cool, but Elias felt an unusual warmth radiating from the artifact. It still pulsed softly, like a living heartbeat. Beside him, Nayeli stirred, her dark eyes reflecting the blue glow. "Good morning," Elias said quietly, his voice a mix of awe and caution. "Did you sleep at all?" Nayeli shook her head. "A little," she admitted, "but the artifact, it doesn't sleep. It watches."
Even at night, it learns. Elias frowned.
"Learns?" "Yes," she said. "It can sense thoughts."
Feel emotions. It is
"Alive in a way we cannot fully understand, but it reacts to us, not just what we touch, but what we think and feel." Elias looked at the glowing object. Its surface shimmered with soft patterns, almost like ripples in water. He reached out to touch it again, carefully, and the artifact pulsed stronger under his fingers. The air shimmered, and for a brief moment, he felt as if the desert itself were bending around him. "It's responding to me," he whispered. "I can feel it." Nayeli nodded. "It responds to both of us, Elias. Humans are special. Our minds, they can resonate with things others cannot. That is why it chose to show itself to us." Elias hesitated. "Why? Why? Humans? Why now?" "I don't know exactly," Nayeli admitted. "But it is testing us, not with weapons or danger, but with understanding. It wants to see what humans can do, how we think, how we feel, how we decide." The idea made Elias feel both proud and nervous. He had spent his life relying on what he could see and touch. Now he was being asked to trust something he could barely understand. Slowly, he sat cross-legged on the sand, studying the artifact. Its light pulsed in waves, and faint symbols appeared, shimmering in the air. At first, they looked like nothing more than patterns of lines and curves. But as he stared, he felt a strange recognition, a sense that the symbols carried meaning, not in words, but in feeling. "Look," Nayeli whispered.
"It's trying to communicate." Elias leaned closer.
The symbols shifted as if alive, forming shapes that reminded him of mountains, rivers, and skies from places he had never been. He felt a strange tug in his mind, as if the artifact were inviting him to imagine. "It wants me to—" "What? Imagine?" he asked, confused. "Yes," Nayeli said softly. "It wants us to think in ways it can understand. It is teaching, not with words, but with visions. Let your mind flow with it." Elias closed his eyes, trying to relax. Slowly, the desert around him faded.
"Okay, now."
In its place, he saw visions of other worlds, forests of silver trees, skies filled with glowing moons, oceans that shimmered with colors he had never seen. The artifact pulsed in rhythm with his thoughts, as if guiding him through a story written in light. "This is incredible," he whispered. "I've never seen anything like it." Nayeli smiled faintly. "Humans can dream, imagine, and feel in ways that most species cannot. That is why it responds to us. Other beings would touch it and see nothing. But we can understand." Elias realized that curiosity was only part of it. The artifact responded to empathy, creativity, and patience. It was not enough to stare or touch. He had to feel and think. Hours passed, though it felt like minutes. Elias and Nayeli sat quietly, exploring the visions together. They saw cities of crystal towers, mountains that moved like waves, and creatures that floated in the air with no wings. Elias felt a thrill unlike any he had ever known. His mind raced with possibilities, inventions, discoveries, stories he could never have imagined before. But the artifact was not finished. Suddenly, the light pulsed sharply, and Elias felt a jolt in his mind. The visions shifted, showing two paths. One was bright, filled with knowledge, beauty, and connection. The other was dark, cold, and empty. Nayeli gasped. "It's a test," she whispered. "It wants to see what we choose. We cannot take the dark path, not with fear, not with greed. Only understanding and care will let us continue." Elias felt a flicker of doubt. The dark path seemed tempting. He saw glimpses of power, of knowledge without effort, of secrets he could control. His mind recoiled. He shook his head.
No, I won't take it.
"I want to learn, but the right way." The artifact pulsed again, softer this time, almost like a sigh. The dark vision faded, leaving only the bright path. Elias opened his eyes and saw Nayeli watching him with a mixture of relief and pride.
"You did well," she said. "It can sense your choices, your intentions."
That is why humans are special. Most beings do not have this ability to choose with both mind and heart. Elias felt a swell of pride, but also responsibility. This artifact was more than a curiosity. It was a test of character. And in that moment he understood that his life, their lives, could change forever if they respected it. "Then, what happens next?" he asked. Nayeli shook her head. "It will show us more, in time. But we must be patient. We cannot force it. We must listen, observe, and think carefully." Elias nodded. He realized the truth of her words. The desert was still quiet, but it no longer felt empty. It hummed with possibility. For the rest of the day they explored the visions together. The artifact showed them ideas, ways to purify water from the desert air, methods to grow food in barren land, and ways to harness the sun and wind to create energy. Elias felt a sense of wonder and hope that he had not known since he was a young man. This could change everything," he said, his voice trembling.
We could help people everywhere. Nayeli smiled. Yes,
"But only if we continue to learn. The artifact gives knowledge, but it does not do the work for us. Humans must act, must think, must care. That is why it chose us. It believes in us." Elias looked at the artifact, its light, now steady and calming. He felt a bond forming, not just with Nayeli, but with something much greater than himself. For the first time, he realized that the universe might be watching humanity, waiting to see what they could do, and that humans were capable of more than anyone had imagined. As the sun began to set, the desert glowed with warm colors. Elias and Nayeli sat together, exhausted but exhilarated. They had glimpsed possibilities beyond their wildest dreams. They had felt the pulse of something ancient and intelligent, and they had begun to understand that curiosity, empathy, and imagination were powerful tools, perhaps the most powerful tools any species could have. Nayeli spoke quietly as darkness fell. "Tomorrow it will teach us more. But for now, we prepare our minds. The journey has only begun." Elias nodded. He felt the weight of responsibility, but also the thrill of discovery. He had spent a lifetime thinking he understood the desert, the land, and life itself, but now he realized that understanding was only the beginning. The artifact had opened a door, and humanity was stepping through, one choice at a time. That night, Elias lay under the stars, feeling the artifact's gentle pulse nearby. He thought of the worlds he had seen in visions, of knowledge yet to be discovered, and of the bond forming between humans and something far greater. And as sleep claimed him, he dreamed not of the past, but of the future. Bright, vast, and full of wonder, the artifact glowed softly in the desert night, a heartbeat of light and hope, and the journey of discovery, understanding, and human potential had only just begun. The desert was quiet in the early morning, the soft wind stirring sand grains in gentle swirls. Elias woke with the first rays of sunlight, feeling the steady, familiar pulse of the artifact beside him. Nayeli was already awake, her eyes fixed on the glowing object. The blue light shimmered softly, and Elias could feel a new sense of energy in the air. "This morning feels different," he said, stretching. "The air. It almost hums." "Yes," Nayeli said quietly. "It wants to teach us today. Yesterday was only an introduction. Today, it begins the real test." Elias's brow furrowed. "Test? I thought yesterday was the test." Nayeli shook her head. "That was only the beginning. The artifact measures more than curiosity. It measures understanding, empathy, patience, and teamwork. If we fail, it will not punish us, but it may stop sharing knowledge. And then, we may never see its visions again." Elias looked at the artifact. Its glow pulsed in soft, hypnotic waves. The light seemed to reach into his mind, teasing thoughts and memories, asking questions without words. "I see," he said. "So we have to prove ourselves, not with strength, but with thinking."
Yes, Nayeli said, and not just thinking.
"We must work together, understand each other, and understand the artifact." Elias reached out to the object, and immediately the air around him shimmered. He felt a tingling sensation in his fingers, spreading through his arms and chest. The artifact projected visions in the air like holograms made of light. They were not landscapes this time, but puzzles, patterns of shapes and symbols, some moving, some glowing, some changing with every thought Elias had. "Look at this," he whispered. "It's like it's asking us to solve something." Nayeli nodded. "Yes, it wants us to understand its language, its logic, not with words, but with thought and care. It will only reveal its knowledge to those who can see connections others might miss." Elias studied the glowing shapes. At first, they seemed random, lines crossing each other, circles overlapping, symbols floating independently. But slowly, as he focused, he noticed a pattern. Each symbol reacted to his thoughts. When he imagined harmony, a symbol glowed brighter. When he doubted, the shapes flickered and shifted unpredictably. "It's alive, and it can feel my mind," Elias said softly. "I have to be careful with my thoughts." "Yes," Nayeli said. "It senses intention. It will guide us only if we are honest and patient." They worked together, sitting cross-legged on the sand, moving their hands above the artifact, guiding their thoughts carefully. Elias imagined balance, patience, and understanding. Nayeli added her own intentions, curiosity tempered by respect. Slowly, the glowing shapes began to form patterns that resembled tools, machines, and structures, though unlike anything Elias had ever seen. "It's showing us ideas," he whispered. "Advanced ways to build, to use energy, to create life differently." Nayeli's eyes widened.
Yes.
"But it's also teaching us how to think, not just what to think. We can only learn if we understand." not just copy. Hours passed, but time felt suspended. The desert around them faded as the visions consumed their attention. Elias felt a thrill in his chest, a mix of fear and excitement. He realized that humans' greatest gift, imagination combined with empathy, was exactly what the artifact was seeking. Other beings might follow instructions or react instinctively, but humans could think creatively, and more importantly, they could care about the results of their choices. Then, suddenly, the artifact changed its glow. The shapes and symbols pulled back, forming a large circle of light in the air between Elias and Nayeli. Inside the circle, a single vision appeared, a barren, dry landscape filled with small plants struggling to survive. A tiny stream trickled through it, but the soil was cracked and the sun harsh. "It's a puzzle," Elias said.
We have to fix it?
"Yes," Nayeli said. "It wants us to apply what we've learned. It's not real, but we have to treat it as if it is. Our choices matter to the artifact because they show who we are." Elias studied the scene. He thought of water and soil, sunlight and shade. Then, remembering the visions from yesterday, he imagined ways to move water efficiently, ways to protect the plants from the harsh sun, and ways to encourage growth without harming the environment. Nayeli contributed too, guiding the light with her careful intentions. The artifact pulsed as they worked, brighter and brighter, until the barren landscape transformed. Plants grew taller and stronger, leaves shimmering in imaginary sunlight. Water flowed in balanced streams. The desert bloomed, not fully real, but perfectly alive in the vision. Elias breathed deeply.
We did it, together. Yes, Nayeli said.
That's why humans are special. We can solve problems by thinking carefully and working together. We understand more than what's in front of us. We understand what could be, and we care about it. The artifact pulsed once, then projected another vision. This time, it was more complex. A series of interconnected systems, water, wind, energy, and life, all moving in delicate balance. It was a simulation of a planet, alive and breathing. "It wants us to understand the bigger picture," Nayeli whispered. "Not just one problem, but how everything connects." "That is the true lesson." Elias nodded, feeling a surge of wonder. He realized that human creativity was only half of the answer. The other half was responsibility. Knowledge without care could be dangerous. The artifact was testing that balance, intelligence and empathy combined. They spent the rest of the day exploring these visions, learning, experimenting, and making choices together. Sometimes they failed. The plants wilted, the streams dried up, the systems collapsed. Each failure taught them more, and the artifact seemed to glow with approval when they corrected their mistakes carefully, patiently, and thoughtfully. By sunset, Elias and Nayeli sat quietly, exhausted but exhilarated. The artifact's light pulsed softly, like a satisfied heartbeat. They had passed the first real test: understanding, cooperation, and care. Elias turned to Nayeli. "I think I understand now. The artifact doesn't just give knowledge. It tests what kind of humans we are.
Our minds, our hearts.
That's why it chose us." Nayeli nodded. "Yes, humans are capable of more than most species. We can imagine, create, and care all at once. That is why the universe may be watching us. That is why the artifact responded to us." Elias leaned back, staring at the stars beginning to appear in the darkening sky. "It's amazing. And a little scary. I never thought I'd see something like this in my life. Something that can teach us and test us at the same time." Yes, Nayeli said softly, but remember, the test is not over. Tomorrow it will challenge us even more. We must be ready to learn, to listen, and to work together. Only then will it show us the next step. Elias looked at the glowing artifact. He felt a bond forming, not just with Nayeli, but with something much greater than himself. It was alive, intelligent, and patient, and it had chosen humans for a reason. For the first time in years, Elias felt truly small, yet truly important. The desert around them was no longer empty. It hummed with life and possibility, and humans had been noticed, not for strength or force or luck, but for their ability to think, feel, and choose wisely. As darkness fully fell, they prepared to rest. The visions would wait until dawn, but the lessons remained in their minds. Elias closed his eyes, feeling the gentle pulse of the artifact, and a deep sense of hope and wonder. Tomorrow, they would face new challenges, but they had learned the first secret. Humans were capable of understanding, of cooperation, of care, and that made them unique in a vast and mysterious universe. And somewhere in the quiet desert, the artifact pulsed softly, like a heartbeat of knowledge and trust, ready to reveal the next step to those who were worthy. The desert was quiet under the pale light of dawn, but Elias felt electricity in the air. The artifact pulsed softly beside him, glowing like a small star on the sand. Nayeli was already awake, sitting cross-legged, her dark eyes fixed on the light. The wind carried a faint hum, almost musical, weaving through the dry grasses. "Good morning," Elias said, stretching and rubbing his hands together. "Double, I wonder what it has for us today." Nayeli smiled faintly. "It will show us more than yesterday. Yesterday we learned. Today it begins to teach and communicate." Elias frowned. "Communicate? You mean it talks?" Nayeli shook her head. "Not with words. It uses thought, vision, and understanding. But yes, it will speak to us in the way it can and in the way we are ready to understand." Elias reached toward the artifact, feeling the familiar warmth in his hands. The blue light brightened immediately, bathing the desert in a soft glow. And then, as if the artifact had waited for the exact right moment, it pulsed sharply, sending a wave of images into their minds. At first, the images were chaotic, swirling colors, shifting shapes, and strange symbols. But slowly, patterns began to emerge. The visions showed entire ecosystems, rivers winding through forests, clouds forming over mountains, winds shaping dunes, and creatures moving in harmony with the land. "It's showing us how everything is connected," Elias whispered, awe in his voice.
Everything lives together. Yes, Nayeli said. Not just living things.
Energy, water, wind, even light. Everything has a balance. That is the lesson. Humans must understand connection, not just between one thing and another, but all things together. Elias closed his eyes, trying to feel the patterns instead of just seeing them. He imagined water flowing in the desert, plants growing where none had grown before, energy moving without waste. Slowly, the visions shifted to a new scene. A planet, alive but fragile, with cities and people struggling to live in balance with nature. "It's teaching us to think," Elias said, "to plan, to care, not just to act." Nayeli nodded. "Exactly. Other species might act on instinct or follow orders. Humans, we can think, imagine, and choose, and we can care about the result of our choices. That is why it responds to us. That is why it trusts us." The artifact pulsed again, stronger this time. The visions changed, showing inventions and systems unlike anything Elias had ever seen. Machines that moved without fuel, cities that floated on water, energy collected from the sun and wind in ways that seemed impossible. The artifact was offering knowledge, but not in words. It was teaching them to understand possibilities, how humans could imagine solutions and make them real. Elias's mind raced. If we can learn this, if we can really understand it, we could help people everywhere.
We could make deserts bloom, cities clean, energy free. Naeli smiled faintly.
Yes, but the knowledge is only half the lesson. The other half is responsibility. We must understand the consequences of using it. That is what makes humans special. We can imagine, and we can care. The artifact pulsed again, projecting a vision of their own desert. It looked the same, but faintly shimmering, as if the land itself was alive in the image. Streams ran through the sand, plants sprouted in patterns, and the wind moved the sand in soft waves.
It's asking us to apply what we've learned, Elias whispered. To think about our world.
Our choices.
Yes, Naeli said. It will guide us, but we must choose.
We must work together. Only then will it reveal more. They spent hours in quiet concentration, hands hovering over the artifact, minds working together. Elias thought about irrigation, planting, protecting the soil. Naeli thought about the desert's balance, how animals, wind, and water move together. Slowly, the desert in the vision transformed under their combined effort. Streams flowed, plants grew tall and strong, and the wind shaped the sand in gentle patterns. The artifact pulsed brightly, sending waves of warmth through their minds. Elias opened his eyes, feeling a mixture of triumph and awe.
We did it, he whispered. We understood.
Together. Yes, Naeli said softly. And that is why humans are special. We can see connections. We can solve problems. And we can care. The artifact pulsed again, and this time a new vision appeared. A network of planets, each alive in its own way, each connected by invisible energy and intelligence. Elias could feel the pulse of each planet, like a heartbeat. The artifact was showing them not just Earth, but the universe, its patterns, its systems, its intelligence. It's incredible, Elias said. It's showing us how everything is connected. How we...
Could be part of it.
Yes, Naeli said. And that is the ultimate lesson. Humans have the ability to understand not just one problem, one place, or one species.
We can see the bigger picture. That is why it chose us.
That is why it trusts us. The artifact pulsed again, projecting one final vision. A human hand reaching out, glowing with light, touching the stars. Elias and Naeli felt a deep connection not just to the artifact, but to all life, all energy, and all possibility. The universe was vast and mysterious, but humans had the power to understand it, to care for it, and to shape it wisely. Elias took a deep breath. It trusts us because we can think and care, not just act, not just survive. We can imagine, and we can understand the consequences of our choices. Naeli nodded.
Yes. And that is why humans are special.
That is why the artifact revealed itself. We have the ability to be more than just another species. We can be stewards of knowledge, of life, and of the future. The sun began to set, casting long shadows across the desert. The artifact pulsed softly, like a heartbeat in the quiet evening. Elias and Naeli sat quietly, absorbing everything they had learned. They knew the journey was not over. Tomorrow, the artifact would challenge them again, showing new knowledge, testing their understanding, and deepening the connection between humans and the universe. But tonight, they felt a sense of awe and hope. Humans had been noticed, not for strength or power, but for their ability to think, imagine, and care. That was a gift and a responsibility. Elias looked at Nayeli. "We're ready," he said softly. "Whatever comes next, we'll face it together. We've learned something no one else could." "Yes," Nayeli said. "We've learned the first lesson. Knowledge is nothing without understanding and care. And humans, we have both." As darkness fell and stars sparkled in the sky, the artifact pulsed gently, sending waves of light into the desert. Elias and Nayeli rested nearby, their minds alive with visions of possibilities, their hearts filled with hope. The artifact had connected with them, not just showing knowledge, but teaching them the value of understanding, empathy, and imagination. And somewhere in the quiet desert, the pulse of the artifact continued, a heartbeat of knowledge, trust, and wonder, waiting to reveal the next step to those who are ready. Elias closed his eyes, feeling the gentle pulse, and knew one thing for certain: humanity had been noticed, and their journey had only just begun.